This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellow Wall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 460 of the Yellow Wall Pods. I'm Joscha from Moscow, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's draw away to Bayer Leverkusen, a cup exit against VfB Stuttgart, and we will preview Saturday's Topspiel against Leipzig. For all that and more, joins me Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing?
Well, Borussia Dortmund notwithstanding, I'm actually doing quite well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good too. It's nice that I've managed to not be as emotionally attached to Borussia Dortmund as I've been and not been in the past. It's a fluctuating thing. I mean, when you write for ESPN about Borussia Dortmund, basically become a beat reporter, I think this is where you lose all attachment. But once that ends, you sort of re-find back to the club. But I don't know. It's been fleeting a little bit. I have to admit. Nevertheless, I think it's fair to say that currently it's very negative because you can very much see the sporting development, just crater. So I guess contextually it makes more sense to talk about the Leverkusen game first, because that sort of sets up the match against Stuttgart. Because Matthias, in a way, I understand why Terzic took the approach to basically sit back and play. The episode title is already written down. This episode will be called Borussia Darmstadt, because I feel like that was sort of the tactical approach against Leverkusen, where we tried to defend, sit back, hope that Leverkusen somehow doesn't break through. Great help that Rami Bensebaini was not available for that game, because that meant the matchup was not Bensebaini versus Frimpong on the left side, but Riasson versus Frimpong, which I think was great damage limitation. That all being said, I was not very impressed with how Dortmund defended, / then once they gained possession, dealt with that possession, because everything felt like, oh, we have the ball, let's counterattack. Oh, we can't counterattack. Oh, we've lost the ball. Okay, back to defending. That was basically the entire game, minus the one great attack that we had, where we nearly scored from, and maybe the other attack where Meunier played a cross in and Füllkrug could have won the game. But Matthias, like I said, the setup is very annoying to me. It nearly worked for Dortmund. I'm sad to say, and as I introduced this segment, is I can understand where he is coming from, Terzic. That is because recently Dortmund just have not played well, and could have probably not gone into this with the more attacking setup, or it would have been very messy, as other games have shown. But in the moment in time, I can understand it, but in the 10,000 feet view, I am heartbroken that this is the state of Borussia Dortmund. Sorry, okay. I don't even have a question for you. That's just my.
I think this is group therapy again. And again, I wrote this on the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, that I understand what Terzic is doing. I understand why he's doing it. That doesn't mean I have to like it. This is not Sean Dyche's Burnley. This is not Dirk Schuster's Darmstadt. This is Borussia fucking Dortmund. And I demand better than a Thomas Doll-like approach from this club. And honestly, with this squad. And this is the thing that pisses me off. And I have shifted into the Terzic needs to get chucked out camp. Because these two matches, these last two, and then in combination with some other matches that were good, showed me that he is not fit to lead Borussia Dortmund as a manager, because He not only lacks the tactical wherewithal and acumen for this level, or the experience, he lacks the backbone and guts to do it. And that's what bothers me. Say what you will about, the ill-fated months of Peter Bosz. He wasn't scared. If we look at Lucien Favre, at the end, he kind of got in his own head and way, but Dortmund still played with a more positive influence to their game. And even under Peter Stöger, where Dortmund were boring, but they weren't passively abject, which is what this is. And it's not good enough. It is not good enough at all. I'll be brutally honest. I would get rid of Edin Terzic immediately, because you're going to go to the next round of the Champions League. That's all done. I'd get rid of him. And, at least until the end of the season, maybe bring in someone like Enrico Maaßen, who at least is also understands the club and understands the dynamic of the club. Some of the young players also know him because they played underneath him. And he has experience. Yes, he got sacked by Augsburg, but he also tried to do something different at Augsburg, which didn't quite come off because it's Augsburg. But what bothers me about this approach of Borussia Dortmund is, one, reading constantly about underdog football. Borussia Dortmund's not an underdog team. And when you look at how they have managed to play well and get results against Newcastle, Milan, Hoffenheim in the Cup, just some as an example, where, yes, they played a little more compact, they played a little bit more on the break. However, their build-up play worked, their passing worked, their movement worked. There was no, let's just say, there was no lack of confidence and structure defensively. It worked. And when we look at Borussia Mönchengladbach match, that's the perfect example. The first 30 minutes, Dortmund played like this, in terms of a passive, lackluster, lacking self-confidence and structure team. And then they changed, and for 60 minutes they were the dominant team with great possession, with fluid movement and attacking play, solid defense, great build-up. They are absolutely 100% capable of playing that style of football week in and week out. However, they do not do it. And I put the blame solely and squarely at the feet of Edin Terzic at this point, because he sets the team up to play in this negative, passive, chicken shit style, and it simply has to stop. The players are not built to play this style. To be perfectly honest, that is not how this squad was put together. That's not, you don't need a Royce, a Brandt, Mukoko, a Jamie Bino Gittins. You don't need any of those players if this is the type of low block bullshit soccer you want to put out there. Then you bring in, you just basically port in Urs Fischer's Union Berlin from the past seasons. Granted, now you're playing like Urs Fischer's Union Berlin from this season. And because you've got the wrong players to play this defensive style, and I'll be honest, Edin Terzic, if you want to play this type of style, go to the Zweite Liga, go to the Dritte Liga, find a team there, and low block your way to success. I don't give a crap. But for Borussia Dortmund, it's simply unacceptable, and it is not good enough. I remember matches in the past where Dortmund did lose. Lost. I still remember one where Benda scored a winner for Leverkusen. But Dortmund was in that match. It was back and forth. They went toe-to-toe. There was no fear of getting beaten. There was just playing. And Borussia Dortmund did not play twice against Stuttgart or against Leverkusen. And against Bayern, at times they kind of wanted to, but then they didn't, and they had no identity. The identity was there against Milan and Newcastle, and the second 60 minute or the final 60 minutes of Gladbach, it was there, and they played it well, and they can play it with confidence, and they love to play that way. These players don't like to play this low block crap, and so you can't exchange all of these players for players that can play low block. No, you get rid of the one person who's the cheapest to get rid of, and that is Edin Terzic, and you bring in someone who understands how to unlock these players to play the positive style of football that they are absolutely capable of doing, because they showed it also in the second half of last season consistently. And that's why, for me, he's got to go big time. I've seen enough. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt even just a week or two ago. That's gone. All that is all completely been eroded by Leverkusen. I don't care if there was a point out of it. Dortmund didn't deserve the point. I was hoping Leverkusen would dump 6 goals on Dortmund. I was hoping Stuttgart would do the same, because that's exactly what that style of football deserves every time.
I mean, 31% possession against Leverkusen and a passing accuracy of 72%.
It's so mind-bogglingly unacceptable, because then I look at positive play from Inter, or I watch Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou, who, went 3-3 against Man City. Yeah, then before that they lost 3 in a row, but before that they won like 5 in a row, because they're playing with no fear whatsoever, and that is what I demand from Borussia Dortmund. And those stats that you just mentioned are, for me, the nail in the coffin of Terzic as manager at Borussia Dortmund, because I'm sorry, you don't need a chicken shit kid on the bench to run this squad, and that's who he is.
And the biggest indictment really is there were little stints in the game against Leverkusen where Dortmund were on the front foot and where it looked good and where Leverkusen looked vulnerable. And it was almost like, well, if you had played this way the entire game, if this was your mindset from the outset, you would have probably put a lot of pressure on Leverkusen and could have put real problems and real questions for them to solve. And instead, we made it really easy for Leverkusen the entire game. Dortmund were pretty lucky that they got this really nice goal, which was really well crafted in the 5th minute, but that sort of allowed them to then completely stop playing any attacking football. I mean, the next shot from Dortmund in the first half, and only shot after the goal, is Jamie Bino-Gittens in the 36th minute, which was from 17 yards out, and was blocked. And other than that, it was almost tragic to see. I mean, after Leverkusen scored, there was a moment where Dortmund did try to come back a little bit, but those were like 5 minutes, and that evaporated real quick. I don't know. Overall, it's just, like you said, it is not good enough, and it's really hard to say someone needs to go when they were one win away from winning the entire freaking championship last season. But I don't know who of our listeners follows Abel Mescheros on Twitter, but he posted an XG plot and basically the averages of that, the average lines where things are going right now for Borussia Dortmund, I think over the time frame of the season, and it's periodically just the XG created is going down, and the XG conceded is going up, and they're basically 2 weeks away or 3 weeks away from meeting in the middle. And Dortmund are playing like a team that is battling relegation right now. And I think Tobias Escher made the point that it's all nice and well to play maybe against the better teams in the league with a low block, but then don't be surprised if you are completely void of any creativity once you meet teams that themselves will just play the low block. So Matthias, I think it's been really revealing to watch how Dortmund started in these games. The Leverkusen game, like you said, the point was fairly lucky. I mean, Gregor Kobel once again had to make a lot of enormous saves. XG at the end was 2.1, was 0.7. So if there's any praise for this, that Dortmund did take the pressure well for most of the game. But like you said, I don't really want to praise this approach and style of play because, as you said, it is not Borussia Dortmund. It is not Dortmund's identity whatsoever. and that of all people, Edin Terzic has Dortmund playing this way. It's a cry for help.
It's crazy to me because if you think about Terzic the first time he took over, when he jumped in and took over for half a season from Lucien Favre, the style of football that Dortmund then played, it was like a breath of fresh air. I mean, they tore through that second half of the season. They won the DFB Pokal. And part of me wonders if one of the massive losses for Dortmund is nobody on the pitch. It's somebody at Terzic's side, because we can't forget that his key assistant manager had to step away. I think it was due to health reasons or family reasons. And that is a massive loss, apparently, because Edin Terzic, the coaching team has occasionally made some good adjustments. There's no doubt about that at half. But you walk into a match like against Leverkusen, like against Stuttgart. I'm sorry. I mean, just saying those clubs, nothing against those clubs. They're playing fantastic football. I wish them all the best for the season. I think Stuttgart against Leverkusen in the DFB Pokal final would probably be an absolutely electrifying match to watch.
Well, I don't know if you've checked the schedule, but they actually meet each other this weekend.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be that. I'm looking forward to watching that because those two teams are playing the style of football that Borussia Dortmund has played in the past, should play again. But, you know, some people, let's call it, I've seen this so many times. Oh, the difference Jude Bellingham makes by not being there. This isn't Jude Bellingham. This isn't a Jude Bellingham problem. You know, that is just cheap, lazy, quote unquote, analytics from the British media that doesn't actually address the real core of the issue. The real core of the issue is that Edin Terzic is overwhelmed by this. He doesn't have the experience on the bench in his coaching staff next to him. And honestly, given what we know now this week with the issues between, let's call it the Kiel side of the club and the Terzic side of the club, with Stanic, who was kind of a co-sporting director type person, even though I'd never heard of the guy before, having to leave. I can't help but wonder that, you know, if Michael Zorc was still there, if this kind of would already be resolved by now in some shape or form, because somebody has to stand and they're like, no, this isn't acceptable anymore. You have to change your approach. Tactically, do these things differently. And the problem is you have veteran players in the squad who are vocal and intelligent. You look at Mats Hummels. They will not be happy with this, and they will say things because Mats Hummels has earned more of a right to say what he thinks than Edin Terzic has, given their careers. And he's going to say, listen, this is bullshit. And then you're going to get camps, and then you're going to get issues. The one thing I will say, and this shows how excellent of a goalkeeper Kobel is that he is letting the, let's call it nervousness that's ahead of him, in front of him on the pitch, not affect his performance. That was always the downside for Roman Bürki.
I was just going to say this.
When the team played well and the defensive line played well, he was one of the best keepers in the Bundesliga. He proved as much. But when the back line evaporated, then he overcompensated. He felt like he had to do too much. He was in his head, and he didn't play well. Kobel, notwithstanding one or two mistakes he made, I'm thinking of Stuttgart in the first time, he doesn't have that issue. And so he's a mentally stronger keeper. And that's really, I mean, let's be honest, that's one of the big, aside from the physical skills, that's one of the big reasons why Ter Stegen or Manuel Neuer are always at the top in German goalkeeping standards, because mentally they're ice cold. They're always there. And that is Gregor Kobel. The fact that Dortmund extended his contract, I think, cannot be overstated how important that is. And you have other players that are that way, but they're starting to overcompensate. And I'm looking at Hummels, I'm thinking, just pick anybody, that they're trying too much. On top of that, can't discount the fact that the team over the last 2 weeks was absolutely ravaged by virus illness. And, you know, you saw it again. There's just no energy there because, you know, I have played a sport sick and I'm not a top athlete and I'm dragging ass. So, I mean, yeah, that's part of it, but that's not an excuse. You still have the quality of the players to go out there and not play a low block. I mean, hell, play a mid block. You know, if you're going to be more compact, you can shut the other team down at midfield. But to allow a team like Leverkusen or Stuttgart the room to come at you time and time and time again, I mean, you're just going to get ripped to pieces. And the other thing that I always say is when you're playing low block all the time and then you trail, to switch mentality completely and tactics completely in the match is near impossible for any team to do. That's why when low block teams go down 1 or 2 goals, odds are they're going to lose because they then can't switch to a more aggressive form to get the points unless they get lucky. And Dortmund aren't even getting the luck. You know, I mean, they're very good from set pieces, but, you know, if you don't get a corner against Leverkusen until deep in the second half, who cares if you're good at set pieces? You're not getting free kicks in a dangerous area and you're not getting corners. You know, I mean, at least the Darmstadts, the Union Berlins, the Augsburgs, the Burnleys would get that. They would at least, you know, kind of dirtbag play out some kind of set piece and Caligiuri would deliver it in and somebody would score. Dortmund's not even capable of doing that. You know why they're not capable of doing that? Because that's not what these players are. That's not what they're trained to do their whole careers. And so this doesn't fit anymore, and it needs to get an ice cold cut now. You may as well cut it now.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, why wait? How many weeks? We have two weeks left until the winter break. I mean, in theory, you could do it then, but why? Why just do it right now? The Champions League, you're through, so that doesn't matter. The Cup, you're out. The league, yeah, you could drop a few more positions, so you'll be 7th. You know, after the winter break, it's not like Dortmund haven't been there before and figured out, oh wait, we can actually play football. So I would just honestly, I'd get rid of them today.
Well, honestly, it's just sad that this is the development right now because at the final stage of last season, I thought Dortmund were in a pretty good shape, even with losing Bellingham, and would be able to build onto what they had built by then. But right now, I feel like this house of cards has completely collapsed. This team is entirely void of any confidence. But it's not only that, and that to me is almost a bigger part than this whole confidence thing because that is fluctuating. But we can maybe switch to the cup exit against Stuttgart and the interview of Emre Can. I think with ZDF it was after the game, and you know, he was asked whether, you know, as the typical sideline reporter question, whether Dortmund were lacking the mentality, and Emre Can was refuting that instantly. He was like, no, it's not the mentality, it's the footballing thing. And his main criticism was that Dortmund are not aggressive enough, meaning Dortmund's pressing is shit, which obviously I totally agree with because it de facto is. He was like, basically, our defenders don't have ever time to be on the ball for 1 second because Stuttgart or Leverkusen or whoever are putting us under tons of pressure, but the opponents have hours and hours to play the ball around, basically. And that is sort of the core issue, but I would extend it to not only that Dortmund's pressing is bad, but also that Dortmund with the ball is equally bad, if not worse. And obviously these two go hand in hand because, as you said, Matthias, when you have a low block and you gain possession, then usually you do not have a structure to build up from because you are more or less in panic mode because all your options usually, or most of them, are lateral passes, right? Because everyone else is just as deep sitting as you when you're the fullback or the center back gaining the ball. So you punt it upfield, hoping that one of your strikers will get to the ball and hold it up for you. But the way you play, you commit so many numbers to defense that your strikers, be it Füllkrug, Adeyemi, or whoever, will be outnumbered, and the center backs of the opposing team will not have a hard time regaining possession off of you, and this is how 31% possession come to show against Leverkusen, which is somewhat embarrassing. And yeah, to me, it is mind-numbing that Dortmund have 46 it was against Stuttgart, but it just never felt like Dortmund had any control in the game. Terzic after the Leverkusen game said, "Oh, yeah, they had a lot of the ball, but we sort of guided where they had the ball, so they weren't really dangerous."
Guided it towards the fucking goal.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
it's sorry, but I think that's just wrong. Oh wait, manipulating Bayer Leverkusen into having the possession in not dangerous areas, quote unquote, it should not be the approach of any Borussia Dortmund coach. In general, yes, it's obviously part of that. Part of good defending is if the opponent has possession, it's nowhere near any dangerous areas, but that can't be the main focus. The main focus is how you dominate the game with the ball against teams like this. And we're so far away from that right now that it's really sad. And yes, I don't know the chicken and egg debate, whether you need to press well first in order to regain possession, or whether you need to have a good positional play in order to, when you lose the ball high up field, that you have the bodies up front to instantly be in the pressing situation. I mean, it goes hand in hand. And that to me is the major problem for Dortmund and the major tactical deficiency, and it has been exposed by the last two teams more than most other teams this year. Again, I didn't see the Bayern game, but I just imagine it wasn't great either. And that to me right now is the core issue, is more on the ball, because when Dortmund regain possession and when they are in the build-up, there are no ideas, there are no structures, there are oceans between the lines of attack. It's all very much drawn out, and I think the lineup against Stuttgart was just so detrimental because the shape was a 5-4-1 system, and I was searching for when I looked at first, well, who's our number 10, because there was no Royce, there was no Brandt, and then I realized, well, Emre Can is playing in the back 5, so our midfield is Sabitzer and Özcan. And then basically Marius Wolf and Riasson are maybe also tasked with creating for Adeyemi, Bino Gittens, and Mokoko. And obviously it did not work out whatsoever, because there is no way to play any attacking football, and this is no way to put any pressure on the opponent, because you actually need to move the ball around. So your positional play is detrimental because you play a system that, as you said, Matthias, the players aren't made for. And B, the players you are playing at that point, which is ironic, also don't have the wherewithal overall to really put footballing pressure on Stuttgart, because I'm sorry, Özcan and Sabitzer is not a good enough double pivot in any system. If you ask me, you need more ball playing capability. And it just showed how Dortmund just lose possession instantly. And yes, the front 3 or front 4 against Leverkusen, they also did not cover themselves in glory. Julian Brandt against Leverkusen had an awful game, was losing the ball left, right, and center in passes in situations where you expect him to play better. But that all being said, I'm more aghast with how tactically outclassed Dortmund are week in and week out, and sometimes the individual quality papers those cracks, but right now we're seeing that it's very lopsided. And Stuttgart are a high-flying team, Leverkusen are a high-flying team, but nevertheless, it really did expose Dortmund's flaws. And I'm with you that something needs to change. I don't know if sacking Terzic is going to make anything better or not. But seriously, Dortmund have to consider what they are doing right now, because, as you said, that is very much un-Dortmund-like, and it's embarrassing to see, because it feels hopeless from the first whistle on. The way Dortmund play against Stuttgart, for example, I had no hope, no faith in them really winning this game, because there was no positivity at all. And we haven't really discussed it yet, but in the Leverkusen game, to bring on Meunier for Royce when it was 1-1 and the game was sort of on the line in the balance, also an atrocious signal.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Meunier did play this one cross, which could
True.
have led to a winner, but still, just to bring on another defender and hope, okay, let's bring home the point, which I declared a good result on the preview show. Man, that felt like
Yeah.
punch in the gut.
I mean, if anything, I would have taken. I don't have an issue with Meunier coming onto the pitch. I probably would have taken Wolf off. I think his theory is Wolf is a better defender than Reus. I will vehemently disagree with that. I think Reus is a significantly better presser of the ball and better. His pressing resistance is better. Now, he's not better positionally defensively, but Wolf was pushed up the pitch, so it wasn't about defensive positioning right then.
No.
Now, when you had Wolf on the pitch, then in the latter parts in the match against Milan, when you were up 3-1, okay, fine. That's fine. At that point, you're like, hey, we played really, really well. We're up 3. We've got 3 goals against Milan. Let's just see out the last 5 minutes. That's totally different. But this, it just cried for. Again, I'm scared. It's coward football. It's not Dortmund football. And if anything, in that moment, even though it would have been, ritual suicide, bring on another attacker. Go for it. So if you lose 2-1, you gained a point against Leverkusen. I'd rather try and then gain the 3 points. Now, granted, they almost did, which is just insane. But what that showed, Leverkusen, defensively, they are vulnerable. They don't have the best defenders. They definitely don't have the best goalkeeper. But if you don't test them, they look pretty good. And I think Xabi Alonso has figured that out. If you keep the ball far away from the likes of Jonathan Tah or Lukas Radetzky, you're going to do well. If you invite the pressure onto them, you're not going to. I mean, Jonathan Tah for Germany, when they didn't have Xabi Alonso's tactics to keep the ball away from them, Jonathan Tah looked pretty abject. He looked like Jonathan Tah.
Yeah.
And, when I heard in the commentary team, they said, well, maybe Hummels and Jonathan Tah at the Euros for Germany. I'm like, well, if you don't want to make it out of the group, sure. But, I think Nagelsmann is smarter than that. But
yeah. I mean, he's also not bringing Nico Schlotterbeck, which is also very smart because.
But again, with Schlotterbeck, this is another one of those players where, from a mentality standpoint, he's the kind of guy who will always try. He never gives up. I mean, that's the one thing. He will never, ever give up. But the problem is he'll then try too hard and go too far. And then things open up. And Hummels then overcompensates for him. We've seen it with Hummels in the past as well, when he has no confidence in the person next to him. Whether that's 1 or 3 people next to him, he'll try too much because he feels like he has to, and that's when gaps open up. And
it's
honestly,
a little bit what happens in the Equalizer,
yes,
where he left
100%.
Schick wide open.
Yep.
Because he was dragging far too. Also shout out to Papadopoulos though, because I thought
he played well.
He played fairly well.
Yeah. For being in a difficult situation. He was very cool, calm, and collect, and exuded a calmness that the veteran players around him at times did not. And I think, I will disagree with Emre Can to a point in terms of mentality. There is a mentality there. But I do like the fact that
he said that the mentality is there. He refuted that, the implication that Dortmund have a mentality issue.
No, what I'm saying is it's there. There is an issue. I believe there is an issue. But the question is, what is the root cause of that issue? Is the root cause just like we've seen in the past with players like Rafael Guerreiro or Gio Reyna to just be like, well, I'm just not going to try now because it didn't work this one time. I don't see that from this side, but what I see is a lack of confidence, and that's part of mentality as well, to just do it. Now, the question is, of course, are they just heeding the words of the manager to a T? And that's the issue? Because you can't also then the manager send the team out and the team goes, well, we're just going to do whatever the fuck we want. Then you have huge problems. So I personally believe a manager change is absolutely needed because you can't continue on like this. And you can't hope and pray that the winner the winter break will give this coaching team some kind of divine inspiration, and that they understand, oh, maybe we should play differently. Because I'm sorry, this is your second season. You had 2 winter breaks and a summer break. If you haven't figured it out, you're not cut out for this job. That's just a flat out fact.
I'm yearning for some continuity on the coaching
whatever
position.
it is. Yeah, I mean, Dortmund were not a team, a club. I mean, yes, if with the Hitzfeld years and the Klopp years, there was stability, but in between, there wasn't. It took a long time between Hitzfeld leaving and Klopp coming, barring the stint with Matthias Sammer. So let's call it post Matthias Sammer and pre Jürgen Klopp. Kind of those 5-6 years were rather turbulent. And honestly, we're past the 5-6 year point of Jürgen Klopp no longer being here, and there is a lack of stability. I felt like there was a little bit there with Lucien Favre, but it just, Dortmund needs to find the right coach, and the beauty is it's still a club that is performing well, that makes it to the Champions League, and that is on everyone's mind from media and TV and so on. So you should be able to attract a good coach, a good quality coach to run this team and squad. And I think they can, but they don't have it right now. Now, right. I will say you couldn't really sack Terzic in the summer, given how close he'd won the DFB Pokal and he got close to winning the Bundesliga. I understand that. But now, I mean, Dortmund are in danger of missing out on their absolute minimum target, which is top 4. And that would be, now they would be okay for a season, maybe 2, but it's just financially it would be not a disaster, but it would be really, really bad. And you just can't have that happen because the other teams will just get stronger because of it. And what bothers me also, Stefan, is, I mean, you said high-flying Stuttgart, high-flying Leverkusen. Pound for pound, if you compare players, Stuttgart isn't better than Borussia Dortmund. They're playing better and they're coached better, but the quality of the team isn't better than Borussia Dortmund. Leverkusen and Dortmund, I would say quality of team is about par. In some positions, Leverkusen are better, in some positions, Dortmund are better. But in against both those teams, it looks like the way Dortmund played that there's such a huge quality gap. It's as if it was Augsburg or Mainz on the pitch playing against them and not Borussia Dortmund. And that's, to me, the biggest, using a German term, Armutszeugnis. I mean, basically a report card of poverty. It's a bad translation, but it's pretty much
the poverty certificate.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the literal translation, but it basically means like it shows how bad you are, how poor you are, and in this case, how poor you are at the game of football. And so, for me, at the end of the day, it comes down to the manager who is setting up the tactic, who is setting up the team to go into a match, and he has completely gotten it wrong in the most horrendous way possible in 2 matches back to back that we just see. And we'll take it total, honestly, 3 matches. I'm taking the Bayern match out a little bit, but twice against Stuttgart and now against Leverkusen, where setting up like that and playing like that shows you have no confidence in the ability to go out and win a match versus trying to not lose a match.
Matthias, you were there on, I don't know if it was the previous pod or the one before, where I said I'm looking forward to the Stuttgart game from the perspective that I want to see how Dortmund will react and adjust to the league loss against Stuttgart, because it's basically pretty much the same game with similar personnel, not much time in between, and what the adjustments were. And the adjustment was, okay, we're just going to sit even deeper and hope for the best. And to me, I think this is like the worst takeaway. That is also very reactionary, if I may say so, to how Dortmund have played recently and things not working out. And then, well, we're just gonna try to defend the best we can, and then that's that. But once Stuttgart made it 1-0, Dortmund, I mean, they almost scored the equalizer with Bino Gittens. He was slightly offside, but once that did not stand, there was once again nothing. And that was, it's just, like you said, it's just not good enough. And I have no idea how Dortmund are now going to play against Leipzig, because the one difference will be it is a home game. And it's funny because Marco Rose maybe has even the potential to end Terzic's career, depending how bad it is. So we'll see how that that game goes. But it is, of course, a very important game for Dortmund, because Dortmund are out of the Champions League spots. The season goals are in danger, as Hans-Joachim Watzke wrote in the statement when Terzic was installed and Favre was sacked. So here we are again. This time Dortmund are only 1 point of Leipzig, so 26 points Leipzig, 25 points Dortmund, and in 6th place comes Hoffenheim with 20 points. So I feel like Dortmund will probably remain in this top 5, because the rest of the league, the gap is just too large. But that being said, you must not lose too much ground on the 4 teams above, because otherwise it will be very difficult to qualify for the Champions League in the second half of the season. Now, I wanna do say, Matthias, that I also think it's not entirely Terzic's fault, because I also don't see any great alternative as a positive number 8 right now. You're playing either Sabitzer or Can in that position. Maybe you can drop Julian Brandt a little bit deeper. Maybe you can put Gio Reyna in there to be that sort of deep lying playmaker. But I feel like this is a very necessary position that Dortmund have in order to play a bit more positive football. And there's just no player to really fulfill that role, to be honest. And I also feel like the fullback situation for Dortmund has been not great going into the season. And now, with Riasson potentially being out for a very extended period of time, because of course he had to pick up a knee injury in garbage time against Stuttgart. I'm not entirely sure what is going to happen, because Matteo Murray obviously is a non-factor. So I assume going forward it will be someone out of Meunier, Wolf, and Bensebaini. I don't know how much Terzic trusts Meunier right now, but yeah, shoving him into this situation, I don't know if it's going to make things better or worse. I don't know. I'm just a little bit disenchanted right now with this team, with the squad building overall. I mean, the way Dortmund have reinvested the money that they got from the transfers of Jadon Sancho, Bellingham, Haaland, etc. Is uninspiring, if I may say so. So I don't want to squarely put it all on Terzic. The Metscher transfer was not only controversial, but is not working out whatsoever. I mean, just from
he's injured right now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He is injured. But beforehand, I also didn't feel like he gave Dortmund a lot of positivity in build up. Maybe there were a few glimpses, but yeah, he is definitely out until the beginning of 2024. So he is not going to save Dortmund either. I'm a little bit hopeless for what is to come for the next weeks. The only good thing that Dortmund have going for themselves is really the individual quality. Mats Hummels is playing really well right now. Nico Schlotterbeck needs to step up his game, but he is also struggling with injury and with full fitness after picking up a virus himself, I think. So there's that. But with Adeyemi, with Malen, Bino Gittens, Moukoko, although he just picked up an injury as well. Füllkrug, you have decent attacking players that can make the difference. Of course, Marco Reus and Julian Brandt are also very much to mention. Gio Reyna, these are all difference makers. So this is sort of the last thread of hope I have. But as you said, Matthias, the largest problem is the collective effort and the tactical acumen that is entirely missing. And yeah, I would like to have a manager that can bring at least that back, because there's so much potential in this team and you can make a lot more out of there is. And, right now Dortmund are worse than the parts at their disposal, but ideally you want a team that is even better than the sum of their parts, if that makes sense. So I feel like we're very much underachieving right now. And I'm very annoyed when Watzke always, talks about the financial discrepancy between Bayern and Dortmund, and woe is me, we obviously can't challenge Bayern because we're so much poorer. However, when you see Stuttgart and Leverkusen outperform Dortmund in that aspect, there are then no excuses that you have left. And I would even make the point that Dortmund, to an extent, has more resources than Leipzig, although Leipzig do have a lot of resources and 8 million farm teams. So it's a give or take there.
It's a different makeup. It's, for me, if you look at tactics,
but they don't have the ticket revenue because
no,
place
obviously
is
not
empty.
What I would say is, I look at the squad, I look at who's playing and how they're playing, and I would scrap everything that Terzic is doing formationally, tactically, and build it up with a 4-3-3. Personally, I would have, Can or Özcan at the base, and then Julian Brandt or Reyna as your creative outlet, with the runner box to box next to him in Zabitza or Nemecha, depending on who can play. And then on the wings, you play Royce, Jamie Bino, Gittens, Malen, Duranville when he's fit, and then Mukoko as well. And then in a striking capacity, you've got Füllkrug, Alea, and Mukoko. You're too deep at every single one of those positions, at least too deep. And defensively, a lot of this comes down to fitness and health. Virus going through and people being injured doesn't help at all. But, the depth is there to play it. And the quality of the players in and out of possession is 100% there to do it. The self-belief in the man calling the shots on the bench isn't there. And that, for me, I was on a Sirius XMFC following the Milan match with Jason Davis and Eric Winalda. And Eric Winalda asked me, what's the real Borussia Dortmund? And I said the upcoming matches against Leverkusen, Stuttgart, and Leipzig will show us who Dortmund is under Terzic right now. And unfortunately, that's very, very true in a very, very negative sense. And I stick to it. This is Terzic ball, and it's not good enough, and he needs to go. The tactical switch and the change with the players you have is honestly not rocket science. The players are there. They were built for that. And you just have to be able to do it. And what I'm seeing is a coach who is not able to convey that style of football, even though I feel like he did at one point. And that's the big head scratcher. And that's why I've fully gone into the Terzic out camp. I agree with you, given that we only have a couple of weeks left in the first half of the season. Champions League, you're guaranteed to move on to the next round. You've got 3 matches left in the Bundesliga, I believe. Leipzig, and then who else? Mainz, Augsburg, something like that. And,
I don't have it in front of me right now, which I probably should have.
But you can see out the rest of the first half of the season and still stay in the top 5, maybe even stay in the winner in the top 4. And so I stick to my guns of I would make a coaching change now. Because why wait until the winter break? Why wait until after Leipzig? Maybe Leipzig, that's the one. Maybe that is the Terzic. You decide your future against Leipzig. And maybe he's earned that on a personal level, given what he did when he took over for Favre and what he almost did last season, and what the team's shown in the Champions League so far. Excluding the PSG match, which, that match was very timid. Let's put it that way. Maybe he's earned the right to get one more chance to play better, to set up the team in a more positive fashion. And if they do, then you may as well stick with him for right now. But I have absolutely no confidence that we're going to see that dramatic of a shift in a few days.
Yeah, well, stranger things have happened. Here's the one thing I would say. I'm a little bit heartbroken for Terzic, because obviously he is a Dortmund fan. He has that identification potential, let's say, as a figure. Obviously, he has, he is obviously not the fan favorite right now due to the way Dortmund are playing. But obviously, as a person himself, I would be heartbroken for him if this whole thing doesn't work out, because, it's a chance of a lifetime you have then sort of missed. You could have become champions with Dortmund, and even maybe the author of a great time period for Dortmund. But I think everyone and he himself can probably see that it's not good enough. He does not have the experience and whatever is needed to make this a good team. But Matthias, you have said yourself that Dortmund have played much better under him. Maybe there is a way to find and recreate that for the Leipzig game. Maybe there is a turnaround, because Terzic has been Mr. Turnaround within the season twice now. So it is not completely excluded that he can't himself, pull himself out of this by his own bootstraps. But yeah, it is looking very dire right now, and my confidence is at an all-time low. So I'm just not sure where we're going to survive this next period, or rather he is, to be honest. But like I said, to me, the Terzic position as a coach and the Watzke position as a CEO are somewhat linked, because I said when Terzic was hired that this is Watzke's final bullet, so to speak, because I think the coaching decisions overall have been terrible in recent years, and I disagree with most of them. And so I am hoping that the sporting direction, which has been topsy-turvy to say the least, will have a much more resolute identity to offer going forward. And so I just don't see Dortmund having long-term success with Terzic, and once you have that view, it is very hard to continue with the coach. So there it is. I guess, Matthias, I don't even want to give like an in-depth preview of Leipzig right now, because it is more about Dortmund and how they will approach this game and how they will react, and if they will react, because if they play the same way against Leipzig, they will be booed off the pitch by their own fans, 100%, because there was almost a luck for Dortmund that they had an away game back-to-back, because had they played like this at the Westfalenstadion, it would have not been pretty whatsoever. But that is really also the problem. I feel like it is going to be very uncomfortable in the Westfalenstadion on Saturday evening should just one thing go wrong, because this team has very little credit with the fans right now.
Which is really sad, given where we were just 6 months ago. So, I don't really have anything to say about playing against Red Bullshit Leipzig. So, Dortmund better win that match. I will not accept anything but 3 points. Anything below 3 points, and I think that's the end of that.
I feel like it's not just whether you win or not. It's more of how you play.
It's how you play. It is, but play well and get 3 points. anything less, and I've got nothing left.
All right. Then it's time to end the show. Thank you, Matthias, for being here, everyone.
That's so much fun.
Yeah, but
Such a drop of sunshine I am today.
Even bigger thank you for everyone who even tunes in, because I personally, I listen to podcasts much more frequently when the teams that I like and follow are doing well, rather than when they're absolute shit. So thanks for that. And I guess we'll be back next week after the, I guess, Leipzig game. Are we waiting for a Terzic sacking? I mean,
Stay
there's no
tuned. We'll see.
Is there a midweek game? Is the PSG game in between? I'm not entirely sure. Yes, it is. So yeah, I guess we'll be back on Thursday again after the PSG game, unless there needs to be an emergency episode, which can of course happen. But yeah, I don't think we need to preview the PSG match anyway. Everyone knows what this is all about. Dortmund have to not lose to win the group, and that's that. Which they ought to not lose, because the way it's shaping out, it is much easier this time around. If you win your group, to then play opponents that are losing, because everyone else topping the group right now are all the big boys, and if Dortmund want a chance to make the quarterfinals, they need to win their group. Anyhow, that's the tiny PSG preview for that, to state the most obvious fact anyway. And then yeah, Dortmund have a gauntlet against Augsburg, Mainz, Darmstadt, Köln. Not Köln, sorry, but Augsburg, Mainz, and Darmstadt. These are all teams they should beat quite comfortably, in the sense that they are the better team, but the past has shown that Dortmund traditionally struggle with these teams. So yeah, I'm intrigued, let's say. Anyway, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Matthias, for coming on and ranting through our little therapy session here. Goodbye.